So glad everyone could join me today. I'm really excited. We've got an opportunity to talk with one of our newer agents on the team. For those that don't know me, my name is Darren Thompson. I am founder and CEO of Stuart St James, the fastest growing residential real estate brokerage in Massachusetts. And I'm excited today. We've got one of our newer agents who has joined the team. And I think that Andrew has taken an extremely thoughtful approach to his whole business, not just in selecting the best real estate brokerage for him, but also in standing up a tech stack and diversifying his lead generation strategies, building out a brand. And so I'm really excited to bring Andrew on, and hopefully my hope is that this conversation will be helpful to you, that you'll be able to take away one, two, three things, and most importantly, be able to take action on those. So without further ado, Andrew, I want to welcome you. Thanks so much for joining today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Darren. It's my pleasure.
Why don't we take just a minute, and if you could introduce yourself, tell us a little bit more about your real estate niche. You know, I'm a fan of niching down, and you've done an awesome job in that, I believe. So take a minute to just introduce yourself and talk a little bit more about how you've gotten into real estate, things of that nature.
Sure. So my name is Andrew Schweihs, and I live in Marblehead, and that's where I work out of Marblehead as well. And I got into real estate really just this year in January. I've been doing real estate investment as a hobby for the past 10 years, 15 years, I guess now. And I decided I wanted to explore real estate as a full-time career. I'm starting out part-time, but eventually my goal is to transition out of corporate, which I've been doing for a while, and get into real estate. And the niche that I serve is really residential real estate on the North Shore. I've branded myself as a North Shore real estate agent, and then on top of that, working in investing, real estate investing. So my goal is to coach people through the investment process, whether they're new to investing or want to expand their portfolios. I want to teach them, educate them, and consult them through the process. I've been doing corporate consulting now for the past 10 years or so, and I decided to take that skill set that I've developed in consulting and translate that to real estate and help my clients to go through the process, understand the process, and really enhance their either investment portfolio or understand what they're getting into and all the ins and outs of what goes into buying real estate so that they're set up for success both for themselves now and then for the future.
Yeah, I think clearly that's a thoughtful approach. I was really impressed. You have created a blog post on your site that basically, I think, walks people through what you did and the process that you went through in selecting the brokerage that you were eventually going to join. And I was, one of the things that I took away from that, you used the word toil in that blog post. And I wanted you to maybe just talk us through that process and what it meant, for you. And I think there'll be an interesting kind of conversation that comes out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did use the word toiled, and I think it's the appropriate word. I struggled a lot with where I wanted to go and the direction I wanted to take with my real estate career. And as I mentioned earlier, I've been in corporate America for my whole career, basically. So I understand business. I understand how businesses operate. I understand, at a high level, how to market, how to sell, how operations work. So I didn't feel the need to get trained on all those things. I felt like I could explore on my own. I could learn. I could use the skills that I've developed in the corporate world and translate those into real estate. When you think about a traditional brokerage, they're always touting the training that they offer. But for me, that wasn't a big appeal because I didn't feel like I needed all that hand holding, which is a term I use for some of the training that they offer. But I don't need that as having 10 or 15, 20 years of experience in the corporate world. Especially in the consulting line of work that I'm in, I deal with people all the time. I consult executives and people at all levels of organizations and walks of life. So I know how to handle myself around people. I know how to talk to people. I know how to follow up. I know how to be diligent and be professional. So that stuff to me comes sort of naturally. But what I didn't know, and what I was uncomfortable with, I think, was the fact that I've never been on the other side of a real estate transaction before. I've never put an offer together. I've never worked with an attorney on the details of a purchase and sale and those types of things. So there was some uneasiness with just jumping into this without having done it before. But what I did have in my back pocket is that I've been on the other side of a transaction as a buyer and as a seller, selling real estate over the years. I haven't done hundreds of transactions, but I've got 3 or 4 properties that I've sold and bought over the years. And to me, I felt like I could understand at a high level how it works, and then figure out on my own through my own research, through Google and internet research, and with the help of a brokerage, get through some of those transactional pieces without a lot of desk training and in-office time and training that I just didn't want to get into. Trying to get out of a corporate environment, been in consulting for so long, and I wanted to really work for myself and have the freedom to do things my way, and kind of learn as I go, I guess, with trial and error. For a lot of what I am doing right now has been having only been in real estate for basically 5 months, is a lot of trial and error. So, you talked about diversifying leads and figuring out a lead generation strategy. I've tried some things that have worked okay, and I've tried some things that have not worked out for me. So all of that is a work in progress, but to me, that's the fun part of this, and like operating my own business and being able to figure things out as I go. So, I'm rambling a little, but that was really what I was struggling with. How much structure do I want, and how much structure do I not want? And can I get away with doing this myself? And I found through coming on with Stuart St James that I can. I'm not at the point where I'm totally self-sufficient, but you've been supportive through the process. We have other agents that I can communicate with that have offered some help. So I'm not out on an island totally by myself, but I do have complete freedom and complete flexibility to do things my way. So, I've used some of the tools that Stuart St James offers with the tech stack, and some of the guidance that you've given me to develop some certain things. But for the most part, I've got my own lead generation strategy figured out. I have found technologies that work for me to do marketing, to do manage my leads and as a CRM. So all that stuff is in the blog. But it's really, for me, has just been a really fun process to explore and figure things out. And I haven't hit any snags yet where I've been totally in trouble, right? So it's, to me, working. I don't consider myself an expert by any means, but I feel like I'm figuring this out, and I think that I have a good strategy put together to be successful as I move forward and transition out of the corporate consulting that I've been doing and more into real estate as a full-time career.
Yeah, and I think you touched on a few things that are really interesting there, like trying to go back to that moment in time, kind of like January 2021, when you're finalizing your decision about what real estate brokerage you were going to go with. And maybe you could help kind of just tease out, from my perspective, when we spoke, you were really, I think, trying to validate whether or not you were going to join a brokerage that was going to be able to come alongside you and have the desire to help you build a brand and scale that business. And to your point earlier, you weren't terribly concerned from a transaction handholding perspective. All that being said, one of the things that I see in speaking with prospective agents and new agents every day almost is there's skepticism in joining Stuart St James. I think
right.
It's a big decision for people. They believe. Maybe you could talk a little bit about your candid experience kind of on the other side of that decision, and whether what you read, what you heard was true, and how that's panned out for you personally.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I understand where you're coming from with this, the people being skeptical about what Stuart St James offers, because it, in a way, and I think you and I think had this conversation about, it does seem like it's too good to be true. How can this organization how can they provide leads? How can they give you access to this technology and charge really just a nominal monthly desktop fee with no hidden charges. To me, it was like I kept looking for the catch, right? I mean, I was like, okay, there's got to be something. There's got to be something that I'm missing, or something that is going to cause me to not be successful if I join this brokerage. um, and I had multiple conversations with friends of mine who are in the industry, and asked them, I'm thinking about joining this self-service brokerage, online brokerage, Stuart St James, and everybody's like, no, you shouldn't do that. You have to go with a Coldwell Banker or go with a Keller Williams, because that they're going to give you training, and they're going to provide you with the documentation or the materials and the PowerPoints and the slide decks that you need to be successful. And in my head, I kept thinking to myself, like, why would I give 40% of my commissions to somebody to like put together or to deliver a PowerPoint that I can present to potential buyers and sellers? Like, I can go and use Google Slides or whatever the technology is, PowerPoint, and create a PowerPoint that has my name on it, has my brand on it. And it may take me some time. It may take some effort to put it all together, but at the end of the day, the effort that goes into that is going to come out on the other side, where 40% of a check for a commission is going to come back to me versus go to a brokerage. And I actually have a close friend of mine who runs a small boutique brokerage that does a more traditional model. And I was very close to just joining with him, but I kept thinking to myself, like, okay, he's putting up all this money to do the advertising and get all the leads and do all the lead generation and then pass it off to me. But I can do that myself. It's 2020, it's 2021, and there are technologies out there that are accessible to everybody. The downside or the challenge, I think, is you have to come up with some initial upfront capital of your own, right? Nothing is going to just be given to you for free. So, but you're investing in it. You're investing in yourself, and you're investing in your future. So for me to put aside, X number of dollars per month, call it $1,000 a month in my own advertising, like that I do for lead generation, diversified lead generation. So right now I work with Zillow. I do Facebook advertising, and I'm setting up Google local ads, as well as OpCity, which is provided for free through Stuart St James. So I have four streams of leads that I'm working on getting finalized and getting set up. And those are delivering me leads that come to me directly. I have complete control over. They go directly into my own CRM. So I manage those leads from day one until I decide I don't want to work with them, or they turn into a transaction. So I own it all. It's my brand. It's my property, like my intellectual property, basically. And they're my customers and they're my clients. They don't belong to anybody else. And I think that's what's great about Stuart St James, is that I do that stuff for myself. I invest in myself. I invest in my business. You are super supportive. Stuart St James is supportive of me as AJS Real Estate, which is my personal brand and my North Shore real estate agency. But you also are, you've been super supportive through the process and given me some tips and tricks along the way, made some recommendations on certain ways to go about it. And you have touted diversifying lead generation from the very beginning. And that's been super helpful for me. And I touch on that in my blog. And I was just talking about it. Like, I have 4 different ways to get leads. Some of them I pay for up front. Some of them I pay on the back end through OpCity. But at the end of the day, it's much more lucrative for me to do it that way than to be assigned to a traditional brokerage that may or may not give me leads. Some do, some don't, but it just depends on how their model is. But really, at the end of the day, like, all that money that I'm spending now is going to pay off like tenfold once I build this business and I start to really bring in leads and start to close deals. It's all my profit and all my money and all my hard work is going to come to me versus lining a brokerage's pocket, which is a huge appeal, right? It's a huge appeal. But and it sounds corny and cheesy, but like, the money isn't the only piece for me. A big part of it is just not wanting to have to fit into a system. And I think, for people that are entrepreneurial and want to do things on their own and do it their way and not have to align to a certain model, like Stuart St James is perfect, because you've been helpful and you've given me guidance, but there has not been a single second of, you have to do this, you have to come here, you have to go this way. There's none of that. And that is super appealing to me. And I know it's appealing to other people. But is it for everybody? It's not for everybody. Like, so I don't want to give people the idea that you can just come into Stuart St. James and get fed leads and be super successful without a lot of hard work. But if you're willing to put the time in, put the effort in, put the work in, and want to run your own business and run your own brand, then Stuart St. James is perfect.
Yeah, I appreciate those comments. I think, one thing that I was thinking about was part of your blog post really talked about the value and where that value goes and how it's distributed and some of the decisions that you did make. And I think you touched on, giving away that 30, 40, 50% of your commission and how
Right.
that would impact an agent's behavior. And I think that's a good transition into the flexibility that Stuart St. James provides to you in building out programs, your go-to-market strategy, those types of things, and even on your blog post here, and I've got that post pulled up, and you've got a pop-up in the lower right, get cash back. You've got some other programs. Maybe you could just spend a moment talking about what those programs are and kind of given the flexibility and the autonomy that you do have as an agent with the team, what you're doing with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think and this is a little bit of this is a work in progress, but I'm trying to brand myself as almost a discount brokerage that offers white glove service. The only reason I'm able to do that is because of the commission structure with Stuart St. James. So I can take a chunk off of what I earn and give that back to buyers through the cashback buyer rebate program that I have. It's AGS Real Estate North Shore cashback buyer rebate program. And only reason I can do that is because I'm not giving 40% of my check to a brokerage. So that's a lead generation strategy for me to attract buyers to work with me that I can offer because of how Stuart St. James is structured. So I just take some of the savings that I get that I would have been paying to a traditional brokerage, and I give that back to buyers as a way to earn their business. And then on the flip side of that, with sellers, I can do the same thing. I can operate almost as a discount model, but also provide the level of service that you'd expect from a full service brokerage. Again, because of the commission structure. So instead of a 5% fee for a sale, I can go down to a 3.5%, and I still make a decent chunk of change off a transaction and make a good amount of money, and more than I would have made working with a traditional brokerage. It's just a math equation essentially. So if you look at the numbers that you would be paying to a traditional brokerage through a traditional like a traditional model, my objective is to pass some of that savings on and use it to generate leads and to generate clients and work with clients that will hopefully come work with me because I am offering them some sort of a discounted service. But once they understand the level of service that I'm providing is a discounted price, but not a discounted service, that's going to bring in repeat customers, going to bring referrals, and hopefully the sky's the limit for what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, that's well put. I think that one of the other things that I do hear from agents is when they make that transition, or in your case, they start with a 100% commission model like Stuart St. James, or in making that transition over from a brokerage where they, were paying 50% in a commission split, they have the ability and finally the funds to invest back into their business and make those investments, run their business like a business alongside of, just running their family and their life. And so maybe we could take a minute to talk about your tech stack and what you've done. And I'm flipping over to your website. And for one, you've got your own branded website that is running on top of some really cool, powerful technology. And maybe you could take a minute to talk about what your tech stack as a new agent, but frankly, a very savvy agent in terms of your tech decisions and and background, but maybe you could take a minute to talk about what you've done in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you know, Stuart St James offers a tech stack to agents, whether you're a new agent or you're someone who's coming off of maybe a traditional brokerage model and you want to explore out on your own. The tech stacks are super, super helpful to be able to basically drag and drop and create a pretty slick website. So I created ajsrealestate.net all on my own. I basically just went in there, started dragging around and playing around with the technology, and was able to figure it out in just a matter of months. I think create a pretty robust and powerful website that has some really great technology behind it. So it has really cool search features, sharing technology that clients can share with their friends and family. It has social network integrations to it. It's obviously tied into MLS listings, and you can create custom searches that you can share with clients just like you would on the MLS. So all of that is great, and it also has built-in like SEO technology behind the scenes that I am learning as I go, like how to be more efficient with it. And you've been very supportive and helpful as I kind of build up that learning curve to understand how SEO works and behind the scenes how to generate traffic to my own website. But again, the idea behind that is it's a nominal fee that you pay directly through Stuart St James. So I opt into the desk fees for the brokerage, and then there are optional fees to pay to host your website that are discounted through Stuart St James' affiliation. And I've been able to do all that in just a short amount of time, build up a website, build up my own brand, all thanks to just the technology that's right there at your fingertips that you sign up for. And it's all right there in front of you on the website. So I knew what technology was available to me. I knew how to access it, and I knew it was going to cost me up front. So I put together my budget beforehand and said, all right, this is what I'm going to spend on a monthly basis. If I close X number of deals in a year, I'll break even. If I close more than that, it'll be profit for me. So it's all been super transparent along the way. But I've done a lot with not only the Agent Fire website, but also exploring CRMs. So I ended up going with a CRM called Pipedrive that, quite honestly, I went with because it was the cheapest, but it had enough technology to do what I needed it to do. It provides me the ability to track, manage, and maintain all my leads, and automate a bunch of different processes to create drip campaigns. And I honestly think that I'm using it. I've created a lot of programs and a lot of automation that it's not really meant to do, but I was savvy enough to figure out how to do some workarounds to fully automate drip campaigns, fully automate my lead intake from different sources, and get them into a drip campaign and do automated follow-ups with them. I'm even using it as a mass email campaign by creating different automated steps to get my newsletter out to all my contacts. I'm using Zapier as well to automate certain feeds. So Zapier is a pretty cool tool that's free to anybody that wants to use it. You can automate your intakes from your website leads to go directly into your CRM. You can automate Zillow leads that come out of Zillow to go directly into your CRM, and you can use it to also generate emails and certain other features. So that's been a really cool free technology that I'm using. I signed up with Canva to do all my marketing, and that's been really user friendly. And again, it's a free tool. If you want to pay for the premium services, you can. I was using the free one for a while, and then decided I wanted to put a little bit more into it, and so I paid the annual fee. I think it's like $120 a year or something, so it's not super expensive. So I'm using that, and then I'm also collaborating with people on Upwork, which is another online social. It's like a freelancing website. So I sign up for Upwork if I need somebody to create marketing materials for me. I just go on there. I find a professional that can do it a little better than me and a little bit faster than me, and you just pay them to set that up. So that's been working really well. And then if you're on any type of social media as a real estate agent, you'll you'll see that there are a plethora of different options out there for lead generation. So you're going to get blasted with Facebook messages, Instagram DMs for people that want to show you what they can offer. And I have just been exploring them as I go. Some have worked really, really well. Some have worked not so well. But again, it's trial and error. You find out what you're comfortable spending on a monthly basis. You put that aside and you say, okay, let's try this out. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, you always can stop that relationship and move on to the next thing. So that's the tech stack that I've set up, is that, along with Google, that's provided through Stuart St James. So Google Workspace gives you all the different tools that you need. So instead of it being Microsoft, it's Google, but you have Slide Generate, you have Google Slides, you have PowerPoint, which is the same thing. And then you have like Google Docs, Google Sheets, all the spreadsheets, all the Word docs, all that stuff is right there at your fingertips, and there's no hidden fees for that either. So it's been a great learning experience for me as I've gone through this process to figure out what works and what doesn't. And as long as you have that mindset of curiosity and wanting to figure stuff out, there's so much technology out there that you can start with a free service. And if you decide that it's working really well and you want to beef it up, you can always pay for premium services. But a lot of them you don't even need to. You just use what they have for free. And as long as you stay within the limitations of that service and you don't try to do too much, you can usually get away with a lot of just different cool free technology. So that's how I've been doing it for the past 5 months, just kind of exploring and trial and error on all the different stuff that's out there. A lot of Google research, a lot of looking through Facebook advertisements and Instagram ads and figuring out what makes sense and picking the bad stuff from the good stuff. But it's been a fun experience so far.
You mentioned Facebook ads, other ads. I remember, are you still running with Tuned Up Marketing?
I was running with them until 2 days ago.
Okay.
So they had been doing an okay job of getting me lots and lots of leads. So tons of Facebook leads, and the cost per lead was under $3. But the leads, just in the market that I'm in here on the Northeast, I don't know that that the service that they offer is strong enough for what the clientele that I'm looking to get. I just found that a lot of the leads that I got, their budgets weren't realistic. And the ones that I actually did get transferred to, some of them were just not, they weren't as motivated as I thought they were originally when speaking with them. And it might be a learning curve for me to just keep following up, and some of those may come through over time. It just may be a timing thing. So I'm not giving up hope on all of them, but I worked with them for 4 months, and I think I have 500 leads through that service. And of those 500 leads, I think maybe 10 of them were live transfer calls that I actually spoke to somebody on the phone with. And I'm actively working, but just there hasn't been as good a quality as I was hoping for with that particular service.
Yeah. I think you've done a great job in really, as you said, testing out different platforms, different offers. And that's what it's going to take, especially when you try and consider, okay, how do I diversify, but not only diversify, but how do I lower my effective cost per lead as a whole?
Right.
And I think you've done a great job of that. There are, you've mentioned OpCity, for instance. So we established a partnership with them. They're the nation's #1 largest online lead buyer. They were acquired by Realtor.com. And there's no upfront cost for that. That's great. That's fantastic. But when you think about the effective cost per lead of those, where you're paying a referral fee on the back end, hey, that's great if you can get some no upfront cost leads in the door, close some deals. But in an overall perspective, that effective cost per lead of those is quite high. But then, as you said, you're testing out these other ones where you're paying $3 a lead, and then on the back end of that, you're taking 100% of that commission. So everything kind of equals out in the end. But I want to applaud you for just having an open mind. And I think one of the characteristic traits for successful agents at Stuart St. James is naturally curious. I think that curiosity that you have has been fantastic. I love that you highlight Zapier. That's one of my favorite automation tools as well. A lot of the brokerage is wired together with Zapier, and the automation is awesome. So that's really neat. I'm curious, have there been any books, pieces of content, otherwise, that have been super helpful for you in maybe your journey so far in 2021, but maybe even kind of getting you to the point where you were comfortable with making that leap, if you will, from quote unquote corporate over to, running your own business, really?
Yeah. So on the real estate specific side, I haven't delved into much there. But there's one book that I read a long time ago that has resonated with me forever, called The Aladdin Factor. It's Jack Canfield. He was the author, but it was given to me by a family friend many, many years ago. And the premise of the book is just about asking for things in life. And when I say asking, I don't mean like getting handouts, but like asking questions, being curious, figuring out how things work. And if you don't ask questions and you don't ask for things, nothing's going to be handed to you. So you have to be not aggressive, but you have to be proactive. You have to ask for things. You have to make things happen in life. And if you don't, you're not going to go anywhere, and you're just going to be stagnant. So that really, in recent months, kind of stuck with me. Like, all right, I've been doing what I've been doing for a long time. Why can't I take this step and transition into real estate, which is something that I've been doing on the peripheral for a while. I like it. I have investment properties. I have been a landlord for 15 years. I understand how businesses operate. I understand a little bit about marketing. I understand the sales process. I understand the sales cycle. Why can't I go in and create my own business and make money for myself, as opposed to making money for a corporation or making money for, a brokerage or whoever it might be? Like, why can't I try this out? Why not now? And there were certain things that happened that kind of kicked me along the way, with my corporate positions. So it was the end of last year. There was a transition in a corporate job, and I was like, all right, this is it. I'm going to do it. I got the support of my wife and the rest of my kind of family and friends, and decided, all right, we can make this happen. And here I am exploring and trying things out. So it's been a great ride so far, and only been 5 months. So I'm still pretty new to this whole process, but, like I said before, it's been a really fun and like curious experience for me to figure it all out. And there haven't been any gotchas so far. There hasn't been anything where like, oh man, I made a huge mistake here. I shouldn't have done this, or joining this brokerage was a bad idea. Like, it's been the exact opposite. Like, it's been exactly what I wanted it to be, where I've been able to do things on my own, figure things out. And you have been super, super supportive through the whole process. Like, if people are worried about just kind of signing on and then getting into a black hole, that's just not how it works. And you've taken some of the suggestions that I have made and others have made about the brokerage, and I see lots of progress happening like now, which is really cool.
Yeah, I love taking action. I love active listening and taking action. And you've come with a lot of constructive feedback, and that's the key for me, is just looking for that constructive piece there. So yep. As we start to try and wrap up, I'm thinking, hey, hindsight's 2020. You haven't been in the business for that long, but if you take a look back, is there anything you'd change, Andrew?
If I mean, I probably would have done this sooner, to be honest. Like, I should have decided to move and do this real estate thing for like 4 years ago or 5 years ago, because I haven't been super happy in the corporate environment for a while now. And I wish I had done it sooner. But aside from that, I think there have been, I think I'm setting my expectations a little bit too high. And I think I jumped in a little too quickly on some of my investments. So I wish I had held back a little bit on certain pieces that I spent money on up front. Not through the brokerage, but like certain investments that I made in other technologies. I wish I had kind of held off a little bit until I had some revenue streams first. But that's the only.
What was one of those?
Sorry, go ahead.
What was one of those decisions that you would have liked to have held back on?
I think one of them was tuned up. I think I got sold on something that I should have done a little bit more due diligence on. So I was spending too much money, not on the tuned up service itself, but on the Facebook advertising side. Okay. So the way that program works is basically they would charge me a monthly fee, and then you'd have to pay for the Facebook ads. But in order for them to deliver on what they promised me, which was 5 live transfers a month, they had to spend an like absurd amount of money just on Facebook ads alone. So that's where I got a little bit of a ding, and I wish I had done more due diligence and figured out behind the scenes how much I would be spending, not just on the services from Tuned Up, but on the Facebook ads. Because that was a little bit of that was a gotcha for me, where I was like, ooh, I should have kind of looked into that a little closer before I jumped in with both feet. But
that's great feedback.
Yeah. Aside from that, like, it's been a little, the timing, like the timing is a little absurd for me. Like with the way the real estate market is right now, like it's just so competitive. There's so low inventory, but I'm staying as positive as I possibly can, and knowing that, it's going to turn around eventually. And that I have myself set up now for success. So when it does, I'll be hitting the ground running. But really, aside from that, like if I had done it sooner, I would have been already established, and I would have been able to weather the market storm a little better than I think I am as a brand new person trying to figure it all out in like the most competitive seller's market really that there has ever been.
Yes. Well, this has been, I think, super helpful. I foresee diving into a couple of these areas that we talked about deeper, with another call. But in the meantime, if folks want to learn more about you, work with you, what's the best way to find you, contact you, and connect with you?
You can text me if you want directly, 781-307-1504. Otherwise, want to explore the website, it's ajsrealestate.net. And you can find me on Facebook as well as Instagram and YouTube, but there's not a whole lot out there on YouTube yet. But you get all my contact info on my website, on Facebook, on Instagram.
Awesome.
And call or text as well, anytime.
Great. Andrew, thanks so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's always great talking with you, Darren.
All right. Thanks.
Okay, bye.